YouTube, what is up? I am in the room. Because right now, mom's boyfriend's outside and I don't really want to make my video in front of him. And I'm crossing right now. I have Marvel shirt and a DC Robin hat. Anyway, this is my reaction rant to The Walking Dead. I'm sorry I'm kind of quiet-ish because he's watching TV right now. I don't want to bother him. But anyway, not that he's mean about it. I don't want to be embarrassed because most of the time I don't want to do my YouTube stuff in front of the adult supervisions in my family. So I don't even want to do it around my cousins who are like close to my age. So yeah. But anyway, this is my reaction rant to The Walking Dead Season 7, Episode 3, titled The Cell. There's not much I could really talk about because it's pretty self-explanatory, because we pretty much find out what happened to Daryl after the Saviors took him. Because remember in the first episode, Abraham, obviously at the end of Season 6 and in the first episode of Season 7, we find out that the one he killed at the end of Season 6 was Abraham. And then we see Daryl being dumb because he just jumps up and punches Negan. And because of that, I don't want Daryl to be the one at fault. You know, I love Daryl Dixon so much. He's one of my favorite characters by all means. But not gonna lie to you, there's a good 50-50 chance that Glenn got killed by Negan because of the stunt that Daryl pretty much did, which was like pretty much get up and punch Negan, right? And we saw at the end of episode 1 after, you know, Negan killed Abraham and Glenn, and then proceeded to take Rick with him in the RV and then pretty much break poor Rick's little soul and then bring Rick back and almost made Rick cut off his own son's arm. After all that and they're about to leave, they pretty much take Daryl, and we find out that they've pretty much taken Daryl to the sanctuary, and of course he's in a cell at that moment, and it pretty much starts off weird because the episode we see Dwight pretty much doing whatever he wants, because you know we hear this happy chipper song which after a couple of times gets really repetitive and annoying. Because you hear it throughout the episode, it really is annoying. I don't mind the song, but hearing it constantly can drive you crazy. And I'm not surprised Daryl's getting crazy because of that song, but we see pretty much Dwight pretty much getting ingredients to make a sandwich for himself, right? And you see that at times he just straight up cuts in line, because apparently they have like this little system where you go in line to get your food and all that stuff. He cuts in line and gets his food immediately. He steals, like, eggs and tomatoes from them. Mainly because he's one of Negan's guys, right? He's, like, one of the top guys. And, we see after he makes himself a sandwich and all that stuff, he ends up making a dog sandwich. Not a dog sandwich, but, you know, he gets a piece of bread and he opens a can of dog food, puts the wet dog food on the bread and makes it a sandwich. And then pretty much opens the cell, and we see poor Daryl there in this really, really dark cell. And hang on, what the heck? But like, sorry, I thought I saw something. I'm sorry. But anyway, we see that Daryl's in this really dark, mangy-looking, tiny cell in the sanctuary, and frickin' Dwight is feeding him a sandwich that's pretty much just bread and wet dog food, and it's so depressing. I mean, the first time we see Daryl in the cell, he's naked. He's butt naked. He is in his freaking birthday suit, and it's like, all those fans of Norman Reedus are probably screaming their faces off because they get to see practically a naked Norman Reedus on this screen. You see like half a butt cheek and everything. It's like amazing. But anyway, basically what we're seeing is Dwight with the of course Negan and Dwight's just being the handyman to Negan. They're pretty much trying to break Daryl by torturing him, pretty much by feeding him dog food sandwiches and blaring annoying repetitive songs at night to prevent him from sleeping. At first, I didn't know why. In the beginning, I didn't know why they kept blaring that music. I thought it was just to annoy them to death, right? But then I found out that they're only playing those songs at night because, like I said, to prevent Daryl from actually sleeping at night. It was just wrong seeing the dog food sandwiches, but honestly, if it weren't for... Just imagine a situation where you're not in a community, and it's an apocalypse, you're not in a community, you have no food whatsoever, and the only thing you see is dog food. I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have no choice but to resort to dog food, especially if, one, you're not in a big community that doesn't have actual food, two, you're starving. Gotta eat what you gotta eat when you're in an apocalypse, right? But unfortunately for Daryl's case, it's not his choice. He's being forced to eat the dog food sandwiches. And just him being kept awake from those loud, repetitive songs, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'd probably still be sleeping, because I slept worse than that. I slept through worse than that, I'm not gonna lie to you. My dad snoring, that's loud. And it's annoying, so, and repetitive. So I've slept through more annoying and loud things before, so I think I could probably sleep through that. But judging by Daryl, he can't, especially since, he's in he's in enemy territory, so of course you'll be kind of paranoid and scared out of your right mind. But anyway, apparently during this whole thing, there's also a moment when there's actually a savior, one of Negan's saviors, actually manages to escape, and Negan sends Dwight on a mission to retrieve this escapee savior, because apparently the savior escaped because he doesn't want to live a life of in fear of Negan anymore, right? And apparently we also found out that this guy had a wife, and that this guy was also in good terms with Dwight, and Dwight was actually a good person according to this guy, right? And he's all begging Dwight to just kill him, while Dwight's pretty much telling him, keep going, you gotta get back to the sanctuary. And ultimately, out of mercy, Dwight actually caves, and you actually see off screen that he actually shoots the guy, because you don't really see the guy get shot, but obviously, you see Dwight holding the gun, and it's obviously pointing at the guy, right, because the guy is ahead of him, and you hear that, you hear the shot, and obviously, he shot the guy out of mercy. And when I see that, it makes me think, Dwight is actually cracking, you know what I mean? Him and Negan are trying to break Daryl, but at the same time, you see that Dwight's starting to break himself. You see that he's starting to, be hesitant when it comes to Negan, you know what I mean? And we also see that, we also see the reappearance of Dwight's wife, and apparently, we find out that, after, Dwight's wife, Sherry, I think her name was Sherry, after Sherry's sister died, remember that it was in the 5th season, Daryl met Dwight, Sherry, and Sherry's sister. I think her name was Tina, or something like that. But, remember they stole from him and all that stuff, and they backstabbed him and everything, and I think her name was Tina, Sherry's sister, ends up getting killed, right? Apparently, we find out how they got back to Negan. Apparently, Dwight begged for mercy to come back, and Sherry was begging for Dwight's wife, and, Dwight was going to Negan was going to kill Dwight, but Sherry's like, how about this? Since Tina was the one that you wanted to marry, how about I become your wife to spare my husband? So basically, Dwight's wife, Sherry, offered herself to become Negan's wife to protect Dwight, right? So now we find out that Dwight's now ex-wife is now Negan's new wife, and it's kind of demented, especially we also find out that before Dwight, Sherry, and Tina escaped and met Daryl, we find out that Sherry's sister Tina was apparently Negan wanted to marry her first, he wanted to marry Tina first. So yeah, we got some demented 4-way engagement marriage thing going on with Negan, Dwight, Sherry, and Tina there, because that's just plain creepy. But anyway, at one point Daryl almost attempts to escape. He got out of his cell, but then ends up getting surrounded by Negan and a bunch of his little saviors. And Negan still is taking a shine to Daryl, because no matter what he does, Daryl's not flinching, right? So Daryl ends up getting a beat down by the group. And then the dog food sandwiches and blaring loud repetitive music keep going. And at one point, we see that Dwight's trying to get to Daryl. He's like, just kneel to Negan, become one of his saviors so you can have the good life. You don't have to deal with this crud, right? And it's like Dwight's trying to help Daryl in an oddball way, and it's pretty interesting, especially since, you know, he mercy killed that one savior guy that tried to escape. But at one point, Dwight does take Daryl to, I want to say, Negan's room, and Negan's giving Daryl like a couple of choices, like 2 to 3 choices on becoming a savior, and both times he does it, Daryl refuses. Both times. And unfortunately, you know, take him back to his cell. And at one point during the middle of the episode, there's one moment where Dwight does give Daryl another sandwich. This is after he mercy kills that one savior that escaped. And he actually tells Daryl, you're the reason why your friend died, which he's talking about Glenn. And, you know, Daryl gets mad and throws stuff at him, but at the same time, you know, Dwight puts a Polaroid and sticks it on the wall next to Daryl's face. And Daryl, at first, he throws the picture on the floor. But when he looks at it, it's obviously a picture of Glenn after, you know, Negan killed him. And you hear him crying, and it's like the worst sound in the world. And it's so depressing to hear, and then especially when Dwight checks up on him after that, and you see that, you know, he's asleep, collapsed on the floor, there's throw up in front of him. It's just so sad to see, you know, like, you know that Daryl feels completely terrible, because Glenn's one of the happiest, most hopeful people in the world, kind of like, it's like Beth all over again for him. It really sucks for Daryl, you know. There's only a few times you ever see Daryl cry. I mean, we saw him cry when he saw his brother Merle as a walker. He obviously cried when Beth got shot. He cried when he carried Beth out of the hospital. He cried after he separated himself from the group and found that cabin. Remember, he found that little, I want to say like a barn? This was after Beth got shot and they left the hospital. Like, he said he was going for a walk, and he just sits there, and there's like a bar nearby, and he's all smoking, and then he starts, you know, putting the cigarette, burning himself with it, and he starts crying. And then this moment, and I really don't blame him for crying, because it's just too much for Daryl, you know? But at the same time, the last time Dwight actually has somewhat of a conversation with him in this episode anyway, Daryl actually tells Dwight that the reason why he can't give in to Negan is because he's thinking about his family, and he kind of understands why Dwight kind of did it, because he's also thinking about somebody. So he has this moment with Dwight, and because of that, I think Dwight might actually, you know, I think he might crumble. His resolve with Negan might crumble, because at the end he also saw that friend that we all thought that he killed. Turns out, yes, he shot him and killed him, but he didn't do a headshot, so the guy turned into a walker, and we see him actually there with the rest of the walkers, because apparently the Saviors put a bunch of walkers on like a fence, and we actually see that, and we see Dwight staring at the walker Savior friend of his that he killed, and you see that in a way his resolve's kind of breaking, and I think Daryl's also getting to him too. So yeah, we see more of the Sanctuary, we see what happened to Daryl, more into Dwight and his wife, and finding out Negan's now Sherry's husband too. So in all honesty, I think Dwight's gonna crack more than Daryl. You know, I think he's gonna crack before Daryl could actually break, you know what I mean? But anyway, I'm hoping and praying Daryl doesn't die, and I'm looking forward to the next episode, which is episode 4, titled Service, which is going to be on November 13th. So, see you guys later. Bye, BooTube. Daryl Dixon!